It's Wednesday. It's December 13th. It is post-Connor versus Connor. We live in a Jonas Brothers NHL. Welcome to What Chaos. Hello, Pete.
Hello, David. What'd you think about the Connor Bowl?
Oh, my God. I loved it. It wasn't the most exciting game I've seen in my life. It was still an exciting night in the NHL, though, so I'll at least take that.
Yeah, it did feel like kind of production, a event.
It was on TV and everything.
That's right. Commercials, though. It had commercials. It was not a commercial-free presentation.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Do you want to kick off with Connor versus Connor? Do we want to fill in the world on what's happening in life?
Yeah, there were a couple news items that came out of the NHL. Gary Bettman did the old media tour yesterday because he had some announcements. Some changes to the NHL's All-Star skills competition this year, and I like them.
Really?
Yeah. So 12 players, the same 12 players will be competing in the skills competition rather than having different players in each event. There'll be 8 events, and in each of those events, you compete for points, and the player with the most points at the end of that sort of roundabout event schedule wins $1 million. I like that. Why don't you like it?
I don't care about skills competition. It never interests me. The NHL All-Star game in general is not the most exciting thing for me. That's typically where I take a breather from the NHL, quite frankly. If you say that there's $1 million involved, yeah, I'll watch anything.
Okay,
like
fair
even
enough.
if it's like, even if you take like Donald Trump and like just name the like Elon Musk, like battling it out for $1 million, like
NHL
people who already
All-Star
have
Squid Game.
billions of dollars, I'll be like, you're saying there's $1 million at stake? I got to see this.
And that's a lot of money for an NHL player. Like even for like Connor McDavid.
NBA did $500K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like it. It's going to actually have guys trying, which I think is important on All-Star Weekend. And I also think like it's a nice way to get like the well-roundedness of a player, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's going to be good for entertainment, good for competition. And I think it's a positive change. If you had to pick a guy to win, who would you pick? Just anybody who could win, like hardest shot, fastest skater, one-timer, accuracy passing.
Tage Thompson.
Jordan Binnington.
Yeah.
What if Jordan Binnington is the fastest skater in the NHL? What would the NHL do about it?
Threw in a goalie.
I mean, goalies are great skaters, but like, what if Jordan Binnington is the best skater in the NHL?
I think the All-Star like skills competition would be a great time to get like goalies out of their pads.
Yeah,
like just to see, just for the hell of it.
I mean, they should do that as like a special sort of field. They should have like a field of 4 goalies, and the goalie that wins. Yeah, because like, what are you doing for a goalie? Why don't they have the chance to win $1 million?
You know what they should do? For $1 million, they should do a thing called Let's Get McCrazy, and the goalies have to play with their pads on backwards.
I think
and see who can really do it.
They should put out like $1 million or whatever, and choose like 4 skaters and 4 goalies, and go like just a shootout, skills challenge, whatever. But like it's for position, so either the skaters win or the goalies win, because like the goalies always kind of half-ass, especially when you do like the shootout challenge or whatever, and then they just kind of they don't want to be that guy that ruins some dude's sweet shootout, so they don't try that hard. But if you put money on the line for the goalies, and the goalies will,
I'll do you one better. They should replace the Stanley Cup with $1 million.
Well, they should put $1 million in the Stanley Cup.
Make everything about $1 million.
Yes.
So like, you go to the NHL awards and you don't win the Norris Trophy, you win $1 million. So like, all right, and the best defenseman in the league for $1 million is that's what I love. Like, $1 million is never going to lose, even with inflation.
It's still cool as fuck.
$1 million is awesome. You know the Das Racist song, Michael Jackson? Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
You know that song? Michael Jackson, $1 million. You feel me? Holler. Michael Jackson, $1 million. And like the hook is just being like $1 million. They're throwing shit out there, but $1 million hits so strong. Like, what if the Calder winner won $1 million? It's
more
You're
than
making
their yearly salary.
$825K,
Yeah.
and then you make $1 million for being better than everybody
That's
else.
why I hope that there's a rookie in the skills competition. They literally could exceed their yearly salary in that one event. That would rock.
You don't think they're going to try and get Bedard in the skills competition?
I mean, but so Bedard in the skills competition, I am absolutely watching.
Yeah.
You're
honestly,
absolutely watching either way because you're a hockey guy now.
Yeah, hockey guy now.
not to be.
I've done my own version of hockey guy forever, and it does not need to involve the skills competition.
Not to be that guy, but I would love to see Logan Cooley in the skills competition. I do genuinely think he has the best hands in his rookie class. Like, just not obviously his
George
shot.
Costanza.
I don't understand the reference.
You know, Seinfeld guy?
No.
He's a hand model.
He becomes
yes,
hand model.
I do get that reference, yes.
And do you know why he unseats the top-ranking hand model?
No.
I think it was because, or I believe the top-rated hand model loses his mind because he could never find love because he had the best hand in the world. So the way they phrase it, they're like, no woman could ever compare to that hand. So the guy loses his mind. Then George becomes,
right.
and then he like
that.
burns his hand off or something.
Yeah.
Classic George
Amazing.
Costanza. I think the NHL is onto something with this $1 million thing.
I agree with you though that they should throw like $1 million in the Stanley Cup or present a giant check as well as the Stanley Cup. Imagine Gary Bettman with a giant check in front of the Stanley Cup.
Come get your giant check and like
make them choose.
Yeah.
You could have the Stanley Cup or $1 million.
What if-
Let's see what Alex Petrangelo chooses.
And every year the winner chooses $1 million. So the Stanley Cup is a consolation prize.
They should make that for the Conn Smythe, make it $1 million, because then you'd have fourth liners just going. I mean, not that the guys don't already try in the Stanley Cup, but you'd have fourth liners going crazy.
But they'd also be going crazy during, like, if you're trying to protect a 1-goal lead to win the Stanley Cup, and you're a fourth liner, and you're like, if I score 2 more goals, I got a shot at $1 million. Coach, put me out there. Teams are there like fighting on the bench and everything.
Yeah, you're gonna have like a game one. Someone fourth liner is gonna score a goal early, and they're gonna be like, "Oh shit, I got a chance now."
The other item of news is that you alluded to it earlier. The Jonas Brothers will be playing not a like intermission show at the Stadium Series, but a pre-game concert. They're going to play a pre-game concert. I don't know if that means a full-length concert, but they're playing a pre-game concert before the Devils and Flyers game at MetLife Stadium.
Is that not what Nickelback did at the Heritage Classic?
I don't know.
I don't know
I'll
either.
be
I
honest.
championed what Nickelback did a lot, but I'll be very honest.
You
I
don't
didn't
know
watch
what
it.
it
Or
was.
I was like, hell yeah, Nickelback.
I was
Shut
excited
up,
about
haters.
the
They were
idea,
awesome.
but I wasn't going to watch that shit.
Yeah. I mean, in general, the pregame concerts they do it for college football, they do it for the NFL. Ellie Goulding famously did it in the NFL, and then got in a fight with Pete online.
4 minutes after walking off
Pete
stage.
looked better than Ellie Goulding. Like, Pete looked like a grown-up compared to Ellie Goulding.
And I was like 22 at the
Yeah,
time.
like, you were being an asshole, and like right away you looked like a way better person than Ellie Goulding. But in general, those are bad.
Yeah.
Like there'll be like, hey, okay, it's time for like the Stanley Cup. $1 million is on the line. Check out Maggie Rogers. And I'm like, I don't want to watch Maggie Rogers right now.
I don't have any Jonas Brothers excitement either. Like I don't have any sort of Jonas Brothers exposure. The only like Jonas Brothers music I've ever been excited about is when Nick Jonas broke off from the Jonas Brothers and had a run where he had like one album. He had
Levels,
Jealous, Chains, I think. He had a good album. I think that was his first album after the Jonas Brothers. I'm not really sure, but Nick Jonas had it for a little bit. He's also a short king.
I like that Nick Jonas is he?
Yeah, he's shorter than
Oh,
me.
he is a bit
He's
of a
like
thing.
5'4".
I liked though that Nick Jonas saw Sam Smith happen, and he was like, "We can get gospel choirs. Let me get a gospel choir." And like Nick Jonas, who I respect Nick Jonas so much, he is a musician who is thriving in this line of work. There is nothing other than him being handsome that suggests he should be in this line of work.
Industry plant?
What's that?
Industry plant?
Maybe. Like he's not obvious. Like he's not the greatest singer. Famously, he chunked it when he took a guitar solo on an awards show one time. I actually am excited for this Jonas Brothers performance. I don't know if I'm going to watch it because, as we said, we don't watch these things.
I'll be watching.
We just break them down. Here's why I would watch it, though.
Yeah.
I mentioned Nick Jonas famously screwed up a guitar solo that I don't think he knew he was supposed to take during an award show one time. On the Grammys, they had a horrible auto-tune mishap one time. There's enough track record and there's enough tape of them fucking up these live performances that it would be perfect chaos and it would be perfect NHL for them to be like, and now here to sing their hit from 10 months ago, Waffle House. Here are the Jonas Brothers. They come out, they do Waffle House, which is a fucking banger. I love that song so much.
I don't know it.
And they fuck it up. Do you know Waffle House?
I do not. I just want I feel like there's a slight undertone of Jonas Brothers disrespect here that I cannot tolerate.
I don't disrespect them.
Don't disrespect.
Well,
I would say that they're certainly outkicking their coverage in terms of talent.
Well, anything that happened once they left Disney, I do not give a shit about. I don't give a shit about Nick or Joe's solo careers. Not Nick. I guess
Who's the Sex with Cake guy? Is that Joe? Or is
Joe? Like Cake by the Ocean?
Yeah.
That's Joe.
That
But,
song
like,
is fucking amazing.
This is not
so
for
much.
as Cricket said in the chat, I believe, that the Jonas Brothers are for the younger demographic.
Not really. They're for like our age because they like people our age grew up with the Jonas Brothers.
I would say they're more for like
You
my
grew up with the
age.
Jonas Brothers?
Like
I
people
feel
my
like
age grew up with the
You're
Jonas Brothers.
slagging them? You grew up with these guys?
I didn't
Did you like hang out?
I wasn't like a Disney Channel guy. I was a Nickelodeon guy.
I was a Disney Channel guy. I feel like they
He
are
grew up with the
more
Jonas
for like
Brothers.
the mid-20s crowd. Because like if they get on stage and I hear the I'm hot, I'm gonna lose my shit. Like that song goes crazy.
And give me some Jonas Brothers songs from like the past 7 years because I love Waffle House.
I have nothing for you. I don't care
know
about
any of
any
them.
of the Jonas Brothers new stuff. Like I'm only into the Jonas Brothers for their Disney music.
There's
Like-
one song that is so good, and I'll pull them up on Spotify, but it won't be there because Spotify doesn't always just give you the relevant ones.
I will be
Like it's giving me a Christmas song. I'm not looking this.
I will be at that show, by the way. Live, boots on the ground. I'm going to the Stadium Series.
I mean, I
So-
might go now. Would it be is leave before you something? It's leave before you. It's a cut off on Spotify. By the way, please. How are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what our updated thing is after the Libs attacked us.
Yeah, we were attacked by libs.
An orchestrated attack by the Libs.
We're at 4.6 stars.
4.6 with 250 ratings. So head to Spotify if you got a Spotify account. Give us 5 stars. Get that back up towards 5 stars. A lot of people did show out for us because we had
you.
about 100 new reviews. So shout out to the people. Thank you very much. But yes, that's the update on NHL goings on with All-Star Skills and Jonas Brothers Stadium Series.
That's,
We'll talk about Craig Berube a little bit later in the show. He got fired, but we've got some other stuff to get to.
The Waffle House though, for real, amazing song. It's a yacht rock song, and I will take that all day. It's got some Michael McDonald flair to it. Terrific.
Waffle House the restaurant.
It's called Waffle House.
No, I'm just saying Waffle House the restaurant.
Oh, I love a Waffle House.
Box.
Are you waffle? If you can only have waffles or
Waffles.
pancakes the rest of your life, you're having waffles.
I'm doing
Easy.
pancakes for
Easy.
sure.
Man, I'm a pancakes guy.
Unless it's blueberry pancakes, then that changes the game a little bit.
Hell yeah.
Well, you get any kind of pancakes you want. You just have to pick one.
I mean, I still would prefer waffle. I like a little crispiness in there. Plus,
Okay.
like if you wait a long enough and it's saturated with syrup, it's basically a pancake anyways.
All right. Well, we had the Connor versus Connor last night on ESPN. First time Bedard played against McDavid. ESPN liked to call it the Connorverse,
I
which
wasn't
was
about it.
very weird. Bedard scored early in the first period. The most annoyed I've ever been with Stu Skinner was last night
Why?
because after Bedard scored that goal, Skinner went, "Fuck." And I was like, everybody is allowing that goal. What are you mad about? That was that was one of the sickest goals I've seen.
That was one of the best goals of the year, and
Yeah.
it was one of those moments where you watch it and you're like, all right, this kid is a freak.
This
kid is psychotic. Like, he might be the only player in the league to get that shot off.
He already has a top 5 shot in the NHL.
Well, I think that's underselling. I think he has a top 3, top 2 shot in the NHL.
He's fucking incredible, but that kind of is it for the Blackhawks in that game. Oilers win 4-1. It is their 8th win in a row. They are now 1 point out of a playoff spot. They are right there. They're totally back. They're going to be in the playoffs by U.S. Christmas. Incredible. I feel like, and we all feel this way, in the Connor versus Connor, who stands out the most, the answer somehow ended up being ESPN.
What do you mean? Like, in terms of...
Like, we tune in to watch Connor versus Connor. I'm so excited. Watching my Oil man, like, I've watched basically every Oilers and Sharks game this season. I'm sorry, Oilers and Blackhawks game this season anyway. But even before the game started, like, they have Gary Bettman on the whole night, which was cool but not very fruitful. And then they're doing all this Connorverse imagery. There was stuff with the delay,
the audio,
audio.
I cannot believe that ESPN's audio sync
year
issue
3
still exists.
Year 3 of this with the NHL.
I believe, right? Yeah. Or year
3.
Year 2, year 3. We're in year 3. Yeah. I can't believe it still exists. This specific issue I know goes at least back 2 years. It may be longer, but it legitimately kind of ruins your viewing experience because you're hearing what's happening before you see it, and it drives me crazy.
So Butchergross, if you didn't see, Butchergross was doing the play-by-play, and because the audio was coming through before the video, he essentially tipped that a goal was being scored. And
just so distracting.
In ESPN's defense, couldn't they have just couldn't they be like, no, Butchergross saw the Oilers enter the offensive zone against the Blackhawks and got really excited.
The first goal was Connor Bedard entering, so he tipped that goal. Yeah. Nobody saw that goal coming.
I think it was the first or second Oilers goal that was egregious. Mm-hmm. It was 20 seconds before. So that's annoying. But what did you think of the Connorverse stuff? Did you think it was forced?
I appreciate them going for it and trying to make it different than a quote unquote normal broadcast, but it didn't deliver. They took a shot. I thought some of the stuff was kind of cringeworthy with the Connorverse stuff.
Connorverse reeks of the mouse.
Fair. For sure,
reeks of Disney Marvel bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. And none of it was damn, this is cool. But I do appreciate that it felt a little different.
I don't know who got the idea. Maybe it was just living through the 90s that everything needs to be animated.
Yeah,
in
ESPN
sports coverage
loves
now.
that shit.
ESPN does it big time with Monday Night Football and everything.
But at least the Monday Night Football thing, it's so weird.
There's a nod and a wink.
Yeah, it's we're memeable, and they make it intentionally bad. Mm-hmm. So that I don't mind. The stuff that they did last night for the Connorverse, it was not good.
I also was excited that Gary was on for the whole night. I was all right, this is going to be golden.
He improved the panel.
He didn't say anything. They didn't say anything to him. They did.
There was a moment, though, where Steve Levy asked PK Subban what he would do, off the cuff. Wasn't in the script. You could tell because PK froze. He said, "What would you do if you were commissioner for a day? What would your first move be?" And sitting right in front of Gary Bettman says in his face, I would bring back Ice Girls for all 32 teams, which I found very funny.
Yeah, I thought it was
such a stupid answer.
It was just being more popcorn or something.
Yeah, but I love that. Good answer.
Yeah,
it's not fun if he's I would just make a small change to the way the game's played.
Yeah, right.
Make it something ridiculous.
But you could have said something like offsides review has to go. Think of what people complain about. But he was put on the spot. Whatever. That in general isn't an amazing broadcast. So I wasn't expecting anything huge. I thought that we'd get at least 1 or 2 talkers or nuggets or real bits of news from that. But oh well. We did get, and I texted you both as soon as this happened. I was like, did you hear what PK Subban just said? Mm-hmm. Sean, We'll get it.
Galvanizing.
There it is.
Galvanizing.
That's
And now we have it forever.
he dropped the big G.
Yeah.
And that's basically become a dog whistle to me at this point, where I think I was folding clothes and just not paying attention. And as soon as I heard that, like my ears perked up and I looked at the TV. I was like, what did I miss?
I texted you guys. I was like, did you hear it? And then I went to Twitter to tweet like, hey, PK said galvanizing. And I already had someone who, a mention of somebody not replying to anything, just
you hear it?
like tweeted at me like, it happened. And I was like, that person is talking about galvanizing. My favorite part, though, and this is like a sincere point, my favorite part of the ESPN broadcast was in the first period, Leah Hextall, who does a really good job as in the on-ice role, did a report about Luke Richardson and said this.
Well, Bucci, we saw Connor Bedard take a look at the iPad late in the first period, but he will not be doing that often. Head coach Luke Richardson has limited iPad time on his bench. The reason being, he does not want his players, especially Bedard, getting in the habit of watching video too much. He feels it disconnects him from the game. The best teaching moments, he believes, are from watching players on the ice.
So I love that Bedard, who is like the baby of the NHL, is given limited screen time. And
Yeah,
like no
Sean.
iPad time, and like
I'm
that's
glad you
so
said
parental.
the baby of the NHL, because I had this made. It's a baby wearing a Blackhawks jersey, watching an iPad with snacks on the floor, because that's Connor Bedard on the bench until Luka Richardson takes away his iPad.
I checked Twitter for the next like 20 minutes after that. I was like, did people not hear this? They're like, we just had a report that was like, the kid isn't allowed to play with the iPad. That is
So,
amazing.
In the moment, I heard it in the moment, and I thought from a hockey perspective, it was interesting that Luke Richardson was like, all right, don't overwork the iPads, don't overthink it, don't get too in your head. So like I appreciated the message there, and I thought it was interesting. But then you sent the audio clip as a standalone after the fact, and I was like, wow, it really sounds like she's reporting on a 4-year-old who is just watching the iPad way too much. And that hits very close to home, because I live with
We
my
have
4-year-old
nephews,
nephew, and he's on the iPad all goddamn day. And that report sounded like it literally applied to him.
Do you do the trick I do, which is all you have to do is say the battery's dead.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And like that, they're like, I can't fucking say anything to that. Here you go. I'm all
my
done.
nephew is like, fix it. And so
I'm like, yo, it takes so long to charge. We're talking until your mom comes home and then she has to deal with it. Then it's charged. According to Penn State, along with actually altering the way a child's brain develops, technology can also take up useful time that kids need to be spending doing hands-on learning and physical activity. Combined, these two technological inhibitors prevent kids from fully developing and cause the cliche iPad kid problems. So, Ducks worried that Leo Carlsson is going to hit a wall. Are the Hawks concerned that Connor Bedard is going to become an iPad kid?
load management versus app management.
Yeah, versus like watching the screen time.
Yeah.
I like that Luke Richardson's doing that. In general, I do think, though, that it is a kind of interesting conversation of like how much should they be on iPads. And when I say they, I don't mean young players. I mean everybody.
Yeah.
In the NFL, I feel like it kind of makes more sense because
You
hey,
have that time off.
you're taking a break. You're not supposed to play a bunch of the game.
Yeah.
NHL shifts are 35 to 50 seconds long. You're going to get back out there.
Plus, like before the iPad in the NFL, they would send out physical pictures, like binders of
missed
pictures from the booth. So like that was happening. It's just it's saving somebody a lot of time and effort by using the iPad on the sideline. I like iPads in sports just solely for the purpose of them being thrown on the bench or on the sidelines. We've seen it so many times on the NFL where they just throw the Microsoft Surface.
I was going to say, what are you talking about?
The Microsoft Surface. That's the only reason anybody knows a Microsoft Surface is because they get abused on NFL sidelines. But I mean, Nathan McKinnon, I remember, or was it the Rangers? On the Rangers bench, I think Chris Kreider grabbed it out of a player's hand, the iPad, and slammed it on the bench. I loved that.
Wow.
Incredible
from
stuff.
his teammate?
From his own teammate.
So I like the idea if you get checked into the boards, just like when you're in there, take a look around. Like, is the iPad nearby? It would be great to steal the iPad.
We talked about Jake Wallman hitting the gritty and players wanting to do custom celebrations. I would love if a player scored a goal went to the bench, got the iPad, and then hit the opposing bench with the replay on a skate by. That would be incredible.
That'd be good. That'd be good. What do you use an iPad for? I was thinking when we were putting notes together for this, and we were going to be talking about the iPad and its use in the NHL. What's its use in life? Because I have an iPad.
I have one right here.
But what are your main functions? So you use it as a laptop, essentially.
Basically as a laptop and as like a less cumbersome work device.
And I don't mean what does one use an iPad. I didn't mean the royal you. I meant like, what do you use it for? Sean, what do you use an iPad for?
Oh, I don't. I think iPads are a complete, like for me personally, are a complete scam.
Oh,
like,
no way,
I
dude.
thought
No way.
I would rather, like, I have my phone, I have my laptop. I don't know what I need an iPad
So
for.
this is like a brain disease, current day brain disease thing. I've been trying to limit my screen time on my iPhone for years. And as a result of that, I have bought a Apple Watch so that like when my phone buzzes in my pocket, I can just check the notification on my wrist without taking it out of my pocket. And last year, I also bought an iPad so that I could spend less time on my phone while watching hockey. And the reason behind it, or the reason why it does actually work, is because I only put like productivity apps on my iPad. So I don't have like Instagram, I don't have TikTok, I don't have any of like the social media stuff outside of Twitter, and it keeps me from like wandering and sort of losing track of myself. Because when I'm on my phone and I pull up my phone to like check a text message or check a score or something, I'll be like, oh, I'll also do this while I'm on it. I'll also do this. And then I get sucked into 35 minutes of screen time that I didn't want. And so I use the other devices to take me away from my phone. And it does kind of work. And I hate that that's like the solution, is just adding more screens.
You have much more willpower than I do. Like I would just pull out my phone and then I would be watching TV and something on my laptop and then also on my phone.
So your iPad is your designated productive screen.
It's my work device.
Okay.
Yeah, quote unquote work device.
Then why not use a laptop?
Because a laptop, you can like have everything.
It's too easy to get to Twitter.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to navigate a laptop. And if I was going to like invest in a laptop, I think I would want more, like, to justify the purchase of a laptop, I feel like I would have to use it for more things.
So I don't have Twitter or Instagram or anything on my iPad, but I also don't have it on my PC at home. And my PC sounds more like how you use your iPad. Like I only use my PC to edit video and make things, and that's it. My iPad I use for streaming services. And like that's streaming service. I have Amazon Prime on there, like those things, or Prime Video, Netflix, whatever. And then I use it as a
second TV or whatever.
No, I use it if I'm playing music and I need a cheat sheet. I have like a stand that goes on the music stand and it holds it, and I can put chords on there and stuff. But even that I don't love to do that.
Game changer though is you got to get the iPad stand with the keyboard. That changed my life.
See, that's where I get confused, because I'm like, you just now have a touchscreen laptop.
Sure,
that can do
sure,
less.
but like if I'm taking notes, like so I use it when I watch games, and so like I'll take notes, and I don't want to type on a fucking iPad. Like this is what.
But that's what I'm saying.
But this is what keeps me from. Yeah, I guess, but like again, I would be able to use the laptop for more things. So
yeah.
I just use this to be able to type and take notes and do productive stuff.
Do you think that if we gave our friends at the Blackhawks like a Christmas gift of like, hey, thank you for being so great with us. By the way, we have some more Blackhawks content coming probably today at some point. Anyway,
social media only. Follow us on Instagram,
TikTok,
Twitter,
everywhere,
all those things.
Yeah, but if as a thank you, we got them iPads, like engraved, like thank you. Use it to win the big game. Do you think that Luke Richardson would be like, we cannot accept these?
Yeah, probably.
Be like, they're engraved.
He'd be like, what's the parental settings on it?
This one already says Vlasic on it. What am I gonna do? Give this to my sister now?
You think Luke Richardson like sets like parental settings so that like Connor Bedard can't?
I do wonder like if he doesn't trust.
He can't play Candy Crush on the bench.
Yeah.
Honest question, like, what is a player using a lap or an iPad for?
Watching film.
But like, what are you learning from that in the moment?
Defensive schemes.
Right, that you don't watch.
But that you don't already know. Yeah, that you aren't like.
It might just be to like review and like validate an idea, like an idea or something, just to kind of clarify.
Yeah,
I think
like,
that's
like
probably
this is
what
what
it's
I'm
used
talking
for.
about. The way their defensemen do this.
Yeah.
See, like when
And-
you were
and-
here, if you had done this,
Yeah,
then,
right.
And hockey's a fast sport, so like what happened in the moment that I like. Didn't
Yeah,
miss,
right.
Like,
It
Like,
also depends on the
yeah.
position, because if I'm like a left wing, my objective is to pretty much score goals, smash the defenseman through the end boards on the forecheck. I'm watching the goalie when I'm sitting on the bench and like trying to figure, like, that's the productive scouting and video that you can do, is just like watch how the other forwards are doing against the goalie and what looks the goalie's giving and shit like
and
that.
kind of like where your teammates might be at on the ice. Especially if you have a teammate being like,
I didn't
leaving
expect
me
us to
open
get
on
like
that.
20 minutes out of iPads.
It's a deep
and hockey.
iPad conversation. But all right, let's talk about the Western Conference and the implications that this game had. I think we all expected the Oilers to win last night against the Blackhawks.
Hit my parlay.
I didn't hit anything. I made 1 million bets on that game and I lost them all, even though I was kind of right about everything.
I would have hit every bet in that game, like solid parlays, if Connor McDavid scored. You heard me do my parlay yesterday on the show. I had Draisaitl anytime scorer, Oilers puck line, and then in a different parlay I had McDavid, Bedard, and Oilers puck line, and that was like plus 800 or something. So I didn't think that McDavid would be the one to fuck me over, but here we are.
You know what I've been doing a bunch of bets on with the Oilers recently is over 1.5 first period goals.
Solid.
And it doesn't always hit, but like that's like that's one I keep going back to. But Oilers win their 8th game in a row. They are now 1 point, I believe, in the standings behind the Coyotes. And I think that by points per game, I believe they're in playoff position.
By the way, one of the teams that the Coyotes had a sick run on that made them the hottest team in hockey is Stanley Cup champions. Yeah, that team, one of those teams just fired their coach. So,
okay, tell me where the Avs are in the standings.
the Avs are a good team.
That's one of the teams they beat. I'm just saying.
Avs are a good team. Not going to deny that.
Not only does this sustain the run the Oilers are on, and yes, the Oilers they're over 500 for the first time this season.
That's
519. Coyotes are at 500. So if the playoffs were to begin today, etc., the Oilers would pretty much be in. So shouts to them. But with the Blackhawks loss and yet another win by the San Jose Sharks,
Another dramatic win by the San Jose Sharks.
the Blackhawks are 32nd, and the Sharks are up to 30th, even though they've played more games than the Ducks. But the Ducks, boy, how they have fallen.
Yeah, I know.
I did a lot of thinking about the Sharks after their win over the Jets last night, and
Which is wild because that game ended at like 2 a.m.
yeah,
You're just sitting there.
I was told Sean when I got here, I was like, I couldn't sleep because of the Sharks last night. I was doing copious number crunching, taking notes. So Sharks are 30th in the NHL, but like with how they're playing, we're not a power rankings podcast because who has the time? We got to talk about iPads. Like if you were to do a power rankings, like where are they showing up? Like, are the Sharks like the 12th best team in the NHL right now?
I think they're like pretty close to the middle of the pack. And that's specifically because right now they do not look at all like the team that started the season. People forget at this point, like a month ago, we were having the discussion, are the Sharks the worst team in NHL history?
Ever.
Yeah.
Yet they have 14 points in their last 10 games. Only 4 teams have more than that. The Sharks have played 2 of those 4 teams in this span. They beat the Islanders and they took the Knights to a shootout. So the Sharks, for all intents and purposes, have been impenetrable of late. They started 0-10-1. They lost their first 11 games. If they had just won 3 of those games, which I will give you, is very ambitious because only one of those 11 games was even a 1-goal game. They were getting their they were getting their
shit kicked.
They were getting fucking smoked. They still have the worst goal differential in the NHL by a fucking mile.
Well,
because of those back-to-back games.
That doesn't surprise me because of those first 11 games in those back-to-back games, which was like
10 goals.
Yeah, like minus 30 in those 2 games. But also because all of their wins since have been pretty close. Like they've been dramatic. They've been, they make adventures even when they win. So.
But if they had won, let's say, 3 of those games that they lost in regulation, they wouldn't be in the playoffs, but they would be capital I, capital M in the mix. And they're not in the mix right now. They're still the 30th team in the NHL. But like if they had started even just really bad, they would be in the mix right now. And that brings me to this point. No team deserves the first overall pick more than the Sharks because they didn't start horrible and say, fuck it, this is a disaster.
That's what I said. Did we have this conversation like a day or 2 ago?
No.
I feel like we were talking about the Sharks and I was like, they could have easily packed in this season. And been like, we fucking suck.
You could say it's over.
Just
US
show up,
Thanksgiving,
collect your check, and get through this year.
And man, like I would love for Connor Bedard to get another pal and like have, if it's Celebrini who goes first overall.
I'm on the Cole Yzerman to Chicago train. So that'll be like the 2 or 3 pick.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Get Max Celebrini to San Jose.
But assuming the Sharks run doesn't continue because they have a gauntlet coming up at Arizona, which is easy, but then at Vancouver, at LA, home against the Oilers for Oil Shark 2.0. Can't wait for that. At Colorado, and then home versus Detroit. That's 6 games. If you get 6 points out of that stretch, which I don't think is likely, I'm keeping them in the mix watch. But other than that, assuming this run ends at some point, I am really celebrating this Sharks team and hoping that the lottery gods are good to them.
This run is gonna end pretty soon, but I think that the implications of this run and the effects of this run aren't gonna go away. Like this is a team that now knows that they can fight. Like if they play hard, they're gonna be in games, and they're not the team that started the season, which is just like, we don't stand a chance. This is going to be an awful year. Like they're a bad team, and they're still without one of their better players, and it doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon with Logan Couture. Like this team's in a tough spot. This is obviously a rebuilding year, but they know that they can be a respectable rebuilding team, and I think that makes a difference.
I mean, we were talking about the Hawks yesterday. You were saying, like, does it really matter if they win or lose games at this point? And I was making the argument that, like, man, like the more when you suck, the more good days you can, like one good day is worth 1,000 good days when you're not having good days.
Right, yeah.
So if the Sharks end up with first overall pick, second overall pick, third overall pick, they never had the first overall pick, by the way. The last time they picked top 2 was, I think, 1997. Pretty good. They got Patrick Marleau out of it. And they got Will Smith top 5 last year, so they're kind of used to picking high-ish. But if they get the first overall pick, second overall pick, third overall pick, and you bring that into a team that knows the coach, yep, we have the right coach for this, or at least we have a coach that we like. We have guys who can at least say we had a good month at some point. Like that, I think it's rare for a team that ends up picking super high to say it wasn't all so bad. And maybe if you put the Sharks on Truth Serum, they'd be like, what do we have to be happy about? We're still where we are in the standings, but it's such a better atmosphere to enter than a team that is losing every game.
The latter part of the year is probably going to be tough because they're going to be shipping off pieces, and they could pick up another potential first-round pick at the deadline. Depends on who and what they're able to sell. They do have
Mackenzie Blackwood to the Oilers for 2 first-round picks.
They do have the Penguins first-round pick this year from the Erik Karlsson trade, and the Penguins are not very good either. Although they did score a power play goal last night. They finally scored a power play goal. So Jeff Carter, 2 goals in the year of our Lord 2023.
Is that
play the sound? Play the sound. Play Subban.
Oh boy,
galvanizing.
Yes.
Is that Pittsburgh? Because I feel like I was looking at it the other day. Is that Pittsburgh pick protected? Top 10 protected?
Oh, I think it is actually.
Yeah. Because I was looking at that. I could get the
I'm
first
trying to
next
see.
year.
Go to Cap Friendly.
Here,
iPad.
I'm on Cap Friendly right now, and the
struggling
problem
to
with the
navigate with your
iPad
iPad,
is
yeah.
that you can't hover over the icon.
Let me fleece this out right now.
My
computer's
first
proper.
round pick, top 10 protected. Yeah, they have the option to move the pick to 2025 unprotected, which. Knowing how old the Penguins are, that pick may not be in any better shape next year, unprotected. So they may just give it away this year, and even if it's top 10.
And wait, hold on a second. If the Devils make, I'm not reading that essay, Cap Friendly, but I believe if the Devils make the conference finals,
That doesn't look good.
Right. The Sharks get their second round pick.
I could still see the Devils turning it around, though. So, yeah, I mean,
oh wait, but if they don't or something, again, I'm sorry. It's
if they make the
thing.
conference
Do you
finals,
want
they're
me to read
probably
it?
getting the first round pick. It's a conditional.
No,
second.
well, okay, let's read this whole thing. I'm reading that essay. Conditional pick. Trade on February 26, 2023. Conditions if NJD makes 2023 East Conference Final and Meyer plays 50% of the games. Pick becomes the pick becomes a first round pick.
That's what I just said. Yeah.
Oh, right. So
Yeah.
it converts. So it's
a conditional
baseline
second.
is a second
Yeah.
round pick.
Well, you left out the or if they make next year's, right? Because it also
I got to
says
read the Old Testament and the New Testament. Damn.
the pick. It says or if New Jersey Devils make the 2024 Eastern Conference.
That's
that's
this one coming up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so it
yeah,
was saying last year,
Yeah,
which it
yeah.
didn't happen, obviously.
Wow. You know what I've been making? I've been making quite the collection of collectibles.
That's right, baby.
I'm talking about bobbleheads. You got Ovechkin there, big old head on him. Sharky, galvanized, gritty. Sometimes when I'm mad, I whack this, and Pete says, "DJ, you didn't need to hit the gritty," and I say, "Sorry, man." But we have all these lovely bobbleheads and collectibles thanks to FOCO, which is a lovely website where you can find all sorts of amazing collectibles. It's how we have chosen to dress our set, which Frank Vetrano, among others, have said, wow, what a great looking set. Look at all those cool things you got. Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews. It really is pretty neat. And you could head to foco.com, and when you're ordering non-sale or pre-sale items, use promo code CHAOS. It's going to get you 10% off, and you are going to build quite the collection. So head over to foco.com. So yes, I am officially rooting for the Sharks to win the first overall pick. I was rooting for the Ducks to win the first overall pick last year. Didn't really work out. Thank God they didn't get the first overall pick, because Connor Bedard would have played 2 games so far this season.
I know.
No iPad. Forget, like, he'd be doing iPad all the time.
No games.
That would actually, like, do you think the NHL would have been like, please fucking play Connor Bedard?
That's a great question.
That's a really good question.
Would the
Duck-
NHL have intervened on the Ducks?
Because, like, no disrespect to Leo Carlson, but he's obviously doesn't have the hype around him that Connor does. So the NHL would have been like, because if they had Oilers,
Yeah,
the Ducks
so
and the
my
Ducks were
answer
like,
is
no.
that they probably would have sent a strong message for certain games.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you are not sitting Bedard
On
against
ESPN
McDavid.
against
Or
McDavid, yeah.
I bet they would even do it for like when they sat Carlson against Fantilli. I bet they would have been like, hey, don't do that.
I also wonder if ownership would have been like, we want ticket sales.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like ownership would have probably stepped in at that
Part
point.
of me was about to say the NHL wouldn't do that. And then I was like, we say every day that they rigged this draft anyway.
and we've talked at length about how they love to stick their nose into shit that they probably shouldn't, and it kind of gets in their own way. So I don't know. That's a good question. Is if they would have treated load management differently if it's Connor McDavid. We do have to talk about Craig Berube getting fired. The St. Louis Blues fired him last night after a 6-4 loss to the Red Wings. It's their 4th loss in a row, 6th loss in their past 8 games. They are 13-14-1, 1 point out of a wild card spot in the Western Conference.
So that's what's
that
worth
was
noting.
The most impressive thing to me.
They're not dead
Right.
at all or close to it.
I think that speaks to how bad the Western Conference is that the Blues are not a good team. They're really not a good team, and they're 1 point out of a wild card.
It's kind of a side conversation, but I was wondering last night, when the Sharks get into the playoff mix, or like when the Oilers, whoever gets there first, and teams that we expected or thought could be in it, get in it, who's dropping out? Like, is Arizona the definite? Is Nashville the definite?
Nashville.
But like St. Louis isn't in it. Like the teams that are in it right now, or does like somebody from the let me think, like the Jets eventually fall out, and then one of those wild card
Jets
teams that
without
are in the
Kyle Connor.
Central end up jumping up?
Yeah, Jets without Kyle Connor are in trouble, I think.
But the point is, the West is so not set.
It's so up for grabs, but like that's a product of it being severely mid, especially in the middle.
We are a Western Conference podcast, so watch your...
The Edmonton Oilers are going to overtake the Arizona Coyotes playoff spot.
Yeah.
I feel that's not even... Like, the Arizona Coyotes are not making the playoffs.
Can we clip that, Sean?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sean's first clip. None of us saying anything. It's just Sean being like, doing like a Colin Cowherd thing, like, and friends... The Arizona Coyotes will be dead at the hand of... I can't do a Colin Cowherd impression.
Drew Bannister takes over as head coach of the St. Louis Blues. He's the coach of the Springfield Thunderbirds, their AHL affiliate, on an interim basis. So he has not been named the head coach. Must point out, the last time that the Blues fired their coach in season, they fired Mike Yeo, hired that same Craig Berube. He coached them to a Stanley Cup title in the first season after taking over. We won't mention who they beat, but my question to you is, you think the Blues have any chance of repeating that trend?
Oh, that was Pete Blackburn voice. I tweeted that last night. Immediately, as soon as I saw that they fired Berube, I quoted you with, God damn it, they're going to win the fucking Blues are going to win the cup again, aren't they? I started researching who are like asshole bozo AHL goalies in the Blues system. Like, this is all going to happen again.
The funniest part about that is that Jordan Binnington is having like his best season in like a few years, and the Blues
I'm not reading that essay.
The Blues still can't overcome it. Like that's why I'm kind of stunned that the Blues fired Craig Berube, is because they are a bad team with a good coach and a bad roster. Like, and their roster and its warts have existed for years at this point. So my question is, like, I'm wondering, what do the Blues think they are? And why do they think that Craig Berube can't get them there? I'm not saying that like it's necessarily a bad idea. I'm sure that they've tried a bunch of things before firing Craig Berube, and we've seen with several other teams already this year that firing the coach does provide a spark. Chris Knobloch, the Oilers, famously the hottest team in hockey right now. Even Dean Evison, after he was fired in Minnesota has won 5 of 7.
Right.
So like it does kick a team in the ass. But with those two examples, those are pretty good rosters that were underperforming. I think that the Blues are overperforming, and they fired the coach.
I think some of their guys are overperforming, and I think that the answer to that question is they're a team that looks around the West.
Not
and
all of their
sees,
guys are overperforming. Like,
right.
Jordan Kyrou's having a tough year.
That's what I was going to say. They're a team that looks around the West and sees that teams that have fired their coaches have improved. Mm-hmm. They've gotten that spark, and in the case of the Oilers, it made them what they were probably supposed to be anyway. I agree with you that the Blues can't have that same thought about themselves because some of their guys are overperforming, but Jordan Kyrou has been dog shit. Yeah. And they need a spark that's going to hit their roster, yes, and get them some more wins, but they need something that's going to not necessarily, I hate to say like get him going, because his shooting percentage is like negative a bajillion. Jordan Kyrou has the same shooting percentage as like the Sharks have goal differential.
He has the same shooting percentage as Tristan Jarry. No, Tristan Jarry's shooting percentage probably like 80%.
1,000.
Yeah.
Probably. We might have a nice
he might
thing under his belt.
He might have another one on net. Yeah. I mean, so like the only way that this makes sense is if you feel like he lost the room, and otherwise, like I think that this isn't his fault. This team is very bad defensively. They have Nick Leddy on the first line or the first pair in the year of our Lord 2023.
I love Nick Leddy, man.
I loved Nick Leddy 10 years ago.
Remember when the Islanders
The downfall
got
of the
Nick
Blues.
Leddy and Johnny Boychuk because good teams were spending too much money, and they were like, "We'll just take these motherfuckers for free."
The beginning of the end for the Blues was when a couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, or a year or two ago, they desperately needed defensive help at the trade deadline. They went out and traded for Nick Leddy, who was already washed, and they were like, "This ought to fix it." He was horrible for them in the second half, and then they were like, "Okay, cool, we'll give him a 3-year contract extension." And I was like, that to me is the bigger picture problem for the Blues, is that they've seen these issues for several years at this point, and they've done almost nothing to fix it, and they've gone in the opposite direction. Like a couple of years ago, that team had an awesome forward group, super deep, super dynamic, and they were super exciting offensively, and they lost a bunch of those guys, and they've lost their offensive explosiveness, and their defense has remained the same.
I mean, that team, though, when you said beginning of the end was when Pietrangelo left. Like,
You can make that argument too. Like, I think there's been several beginnings of the end.
I'm trying to think of like what's something that starts a bajillion times. It's like they have more beginnings than beginning of the end than the movie Vice, directed by Adam McKay. Remember that?
No.
They have a fake.
They have fake ends,
There's
yeah.
a fake end credit scene, and then it starts over. Or no, the better one would be they have a better, more beginning of the end than the first Spider-Verse movie.
That's true. Yeah. That's a good
Bang!
call.
Fucking nailed it.
Nailed it.
ESPN executives are like, "Whoa, got to get this podcast."
Yeah. So,
Yeah, but
despite
like,
the firing of the coach, I don't see things turning around for the Blues.
poor Craig Berube.
Do you think that there's any part of Armstrong that's like, fuck it, it worked last time? Like, they're near the playoffs.
He's thinking like our shitpost tweets. I mean,
This
no,
does
truly,
feel
I
like,
think
this does
though,
feel like a throwing up the arms and being like, well, I guess.
Sean, I do think that they look at what happened with the Oilers in the Wild, and they're like,
well, not even just that, but I mean, them themselves. Like, they're last time they fired a
so
coach.
this works.
Yeah, but last time they fired the coach, they had a good roster and a bad coach. This time they have a bad roster and a good coach. It's the opposite situation.
And last time they'd fired the coach, they had spent the offseason like building a Stanley Cup champion that was just not. And like the Blues, shout out 2019 Blues, great for you. Like that's one of the worst Stanley Cup champion like teams in recent years. But still, they had like
You still
the
have to be a
stud
good
defenseman.
team, yeah.
They had the two really good centers. Like they
Hot
had
goalie.
like the goalie played okay. They had the bones of a team that would win the Stanley Cup. I don't think that they can. So I get why they would say like, fuck, like we shouldn't be a last place team. We have to fire the coach. When you don't have an amazing roster in your capital I, capital M in the mix, I don't think that it's necessarily the most fair thing to fire the coach. But as we saw with the Oilers, like it wasn't fucking fair to fire Woodcroft. They just felt they needed to do something.
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot too. I'm just surprised that it happened here with this team. Like I'm surprised that Craig Berube was axed before DJ Smith. How does DJ Smith have a job?
I
It's
bet you the Blues
crazy to me.
still wish they had Tage Thompson. Just saying.
Dude,
Actually, that's not true at all. Because
no,
if they
it
had him,
fucking
so they
is. I thought about that the other
No,
day.
No, because they
You
traded
don't-
him for O'Reilly. to
Right,
get
Ryan
you won the
O'Reilly's
cup
a
because of
Conn
it.
Smythe
You won the
winner.
cup, no,
Yeah.
but I thought I was like, there are definitely Blues fans that are like, fuck, I wish we had Tage.
Well, I
Well,
bet
yeah,
you they
but,
wish
like,
they had traded.
You don't
Traded
give
somebody
him back.
else.
Well,
Ryan
yeah, because
O'Reilly.
it was between the Sabres were asking for Tage or Cairo, I believe. That's what Bill Armstrong said because he was the assistant GM at the time. And I bet you they wish they had Tage still.
Tage, I know that I'm probably the third biggest Tage fan on this show, but Tage is the fucking greatest.
Yep.
And also, he just like we were watching him when they played the Bruins last week. He's just this moose, but he's like expressionless. When you
Yeah.
escape back to the bench, you're just like,
He honestly, like from a play style perspective, reminds me of Nikola Jokic at times because he's very unfazed by things and he also moves kind of slow, but it just still works. and you're like, he's just really good, I guess.
You see what Jokic said last night?
What?
He said,
canceled?
He said, I guess something happened in the Nuggets game, and he was like, I'm just glad that this game wasn't played in Serbia. Like, basically insinuating that people would have been murdered.
I think he got a double tech and got ejected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did get ejected last night. Yeah.
Wow.
He insinuated that there would have been dead bodies.
Well, I mean, his
hand.
brothers have tried to fight people in NBA arenas before. 100% there would have been dead bodies.
I'm kind of for that. Like,
No, there's
throw that
some
in the
like
mix.
if you're gonna talk about it, be about it sort of thing. Like, I don't have any reason to doubt.
Oh, yeah, right.
To doubt or challenge Nikola Jokic.
Eastern Europeans,
Don't mess with Serbs.
not getting in that mix. I just watched Eastern Promises, by the way. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
It's called Eastern Bound and Down.
Yes, Eastern Promises with Viggo Mortensen.
Oh,
It's
say no more.
It's a good movie. There's also a naked fight scene, a la No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence.
It's nice.
Viggo Mortensen, straight up butt ass naked,
Cool.
fighting a couple gangsters in a sauna.
You still haven't seen Saltburn, have you?
No,
Oh,
I know I got to do it.
see it.
I think I'm gonna watch The Holdovers again next week.
We got a flight coming up,
I know.
by the way. What are we gonna do for? Do we put on Maine, like where we are when
Yeah,
we're
I
doing
think
it?
so,
Like, should
yeah.
we post from it?
Because we're not storing the stuff that we're going to get.
Yeah, we are. We're storing
some
it
of
probably over like
Yeah, like
3 weeks, a month.
but like it'll start trickling out starting next week.
Right, people are gonna know.
Yeah,
like, okay,
so I don't think that we have to really kind of like keep it close to the vest.
And they don't know what we're doing.
Also,
That's true.
worth
We don't know
noting,
what we're doing, which is cool.
Yeah.
worth noting, the Washington Capitals are moving. Allegedly, Ted Leonsis announced plans to move to Northern Virginia.
So would that
from
be like
DC,
Arlandria or something?
Alexandria.
Well, that's one too. Did they say where it is?
I didn't see
I
a bunch of
believe
the
it's
details.
Alexandria.
It is Alex.
It began with an A, so it's one of the two places you're
So it's
talking about.
Arlandria or Washington Capitals move to.
It's not happening until 2028, something like that. They're building a brand new arena district in Northern Virginia. The Wizards also going with them. But
The Leonsis made this announcement at an event in Alexandria,
Mhm.
but let's see. Maybe
I'm
that's just
assuming
where
it's
they're going to
Alexandria.
announce it. This is the exact process. Blah, 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 blah. He compared it to Amazon. I'm not reading that essay. So let's see. It's
big episode for DJ not reading essays.
Potomac Yard, and that is in
Potomac?
Alexandria.
Okay.
They do play, the Capitals routinely play Arlandria at their games, and the Capitals have probably the best in-arena DJ
Mhm.
in the whole show.
So my question here is, I don't particularly care, whatever, but like
I
my
do.
question
I'm
is,
reading that essay.
did the Capitals have to rebrand?
Yes.
If they move,
Yes.
they're
No, they
Yes,
don't.
yes,
they're
they
both
do.
not in
And
Washington and not in a capital.
The Jets and Giants are New Jersey teams. The Capitals are a Virginia team
so that's
now.
the
The Capitals' entire identity, like, it's
It's
different from the
DC.
Giants. The Capitals' entire identity
Yeah.
is based around being in Washington, D.C.
Yes, that's fair, but it just all depends on if you're willing to suspend belief the way that you do for the Jets and Giants. You have to for the Capitals, because it's the same thing. Like, hey, it's a really tight, like, hustling and bustling city, and obviously DC is more of like a real place than New York City is.
Well, it's like you can't throw like a giant stadium in the middle of
Yeah,
New York
I mean
City.
football is it gets a little longer of a leash. I feel like, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I-
can't
my
throw a
thing-
giant stadium. Like the Giants isn't tied to New York. The Capitals.
I mean,
is Alexandria at least the
technically
capital
it
of
is.
Northern Virginia or
'cause
Virginia or whatever it is?
they were named the Giants after the New York baseball Giants, so it is tied in that sense. But my thing is, like, if I'm a DC resident, I'm like, fuck you guys. You don't get you're not one of us now.
But here, so
Chat says it's only 8 miles
So,
down the road.
I was just about to say what doesn't necessarily confuse people, because if they sat to think about it, they would understand this. This isn't rocket scientist. The fact that DC is like we act like it's like another state.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? You're making a face.
No, I'm waiting to hear your point. Like, I understand that they're close in proximity.
Right. Like
I didn't know that it was that close.
You're
though.
playing in like an entirely different thing. Like you're playing the next town over.
Also,
basically.
don't the commies play in Virginia technically? Like they don't play in DC proper. I don't think.
Good question.
I'm pretty sure their stadium is technically in Arizona, but again, or in I think it might be Arlington actually. But again, it's football.
Here's the better question: what is with Northern Virginia in their A towns?
I don't know. I do know
Arlington, Arlandria, Alexandria.
A couple of years ago, when I think the Capitals were one of the first teams to do like personalized goal songs, and TJ Oshie did Country Roads. And
Interesting.
So like, there's a Virginia tie to the Capitals.
No, there isn't.
Isn't it?
That's West Virginia.
It's
West Virginia.
Which
yeah,
was
but
once
it's
a part
a Virginia
of Virginia.
tie.
It's one of the Virginias.
It's one of the Virginias. Also, that song is not about West Virginia. It's about the western part of Virginia.
I think I've heard that before.
Yeah. It's you ever see that famous meme of the Asian guy who is like it starts off with drunk thoughts or whatever, drunk words or sober thoughts or something, and it's him like absolutely hammered being like, fun fact, this song is not about like that meme. Yeah, that's how I learned that. So it's about the western part of Virginia, not West Virginia.
That's how you learn everything from TikTok
Memes on
and
the internet.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, what games do we have coming up tonight? The Boston Bruins play for the first time in 100 years.
That is true. There are a couple good games tonight. Let me see.
We've got it on our ticker here. We have Pittsburgh at Montreal at 7
Not
p.m.
interested. No,
Boston
thank you.
at
Buffalo Sabres
the
at
Devils.
Colorado Avalanche. I'm in on that one.
That's a good one. I'm going to watch that.
Ducks at Devs.
Is
Leo Carlson going to play, question mark?
Is Rob Roy in tonight?
I would have to. He was in that
Rob
night.
Ray.
He's Rob
Ray,
yeah.
sorry. Patrick Waugh. Sometimes you will see a player leave a game, come
true.
back, and then they're out
Miss
for like
the next
3
game.
weeks.
I feel like the only way that he is out is if A, he has like a concussion, which I guess is possible, but the puck wasn't that hard. It was just close. Or if MSG is like, you look too ugly to be on TV right
So
now.
I think it would be an aesthetic thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Check. It'll probably be today. We've been doing a Pro Shop series. We're going to go to Pro Shops. We've already got a couple of these in the can, but we go to a Pro Shop and should we say what it's about or just say that there's Pro Shop content?
The Pro Shop, yeah, we can give a rundown. So we're doing a series called Pro Shop Wars, in which we set a budget and we hit pro shops around the country and try to come away with the best haul while staying under that budget that we set for ourselves. So we reveal what's in our bag, and whoever has the coolest items in their haul wins, and that'll be up for you to decide. Go to the comments, sound off, give us 5 stars, all that good stuff.
And suggest Pro Shops to us, because
Yeah.
when we go to anything, even if we're not doing hockey stuff, if Pete and I are in a different town, we're like, let's find a Pro Shop.
Yeah. And like, I don't know if everybody knows this, but like the Pro Shops, there are different strengths of Pro Shops.
Oh, yeah.
There are really good Pro Shops in the NHL, and there are some not so good Pro Shops. I'm not going to name names, but some of those Pro Shops are located in the concourse of the arena, perhaps an arena called Mullet Arena.
Yeah, no, I'm not defending anybody here.
It's like the concession stand is literally bigger than the Pro Shop.
It literally is like a corner by the stairs. It gives big like mall kiosk vibes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Man.
awful. But also,
Which
I think it would be hilarious.
So devastating because the Coyotes have some of the best branding, and they are super into doing like collabs, like cool like streetwear collabs. Who's the guy's name that they kind of work with all the time? He's like a big.
Oh man, PHNX
he's like
Coyotes
big on
are
the
gonna hate
scene.
me. Yeah. Oh god.
They always work with him, but like if they had a Pro Shop, they would have so many cool like corners where they like this collab. Like they love streetwear, so. Once the Coyotes get a permanent home, their Pro Shop is going to go crazy.
Luigi Villasenor.
That's a sick name.
We're also trying to, we haven't gotten this segment sponsored yet because we haven't put it out yet. So it needs to do well. And then ideally we're hoping credit card or Venmo or somebody will sponsor it. and then we can increase the budget. But the first couple episodes are really fun because we have to work within a budget where in this one, we don't show each other what we're getting until the very end, and it's a lot of fun. So
also, if you're just like a really rich person and you want to sponsor this series, you can do that too. Like if you're a rich listener, let us know, and we'll get you gifts from the Pro Shop, and that'll be you give us like $1 million. And
$1 million would be
just give us $1 million and we'll get you a hat.
That would be terrific. We have a Pro Shop coming up for this trip that we're doing this weekend, and I'll go there. I'll say it. I'm not expecting much from this Pro Shop.
Me either.
I would love to be pleasantly surprised, and it's not a knock on this team or this organization.
Here's the thing: the Pro Shop could be awesome. There's still a good chance that I'm not going to want to buy anything in that Pro Shop.
I know I'm going to, because as I've discussed with you guys, I love one of this particular team's jerseys very much.
That's right.
That you guys, I think,
so that's a
have
little tip and
opinions.
teaser for you guys. It's branding that I hate.
Guess who? Yeah, it's. I don't know how badly we want to drag this.
Well, I mean, I will praise
get
them.
out there first.
They have one of my favorite jerseys in all of hockey.
Okay.
So
they have most of
Think
my
about
least
what that
favorite
might be.
jerseys in hockey.
I think less of you for that, but
they have
fine.
most of my least favorite jerseys in
right.
hockey.
that too. That's also true for me.
So I'm mostly excited to launch this series just so that I can start using and wearing some of the stuff that we've already got.
I know, dude.
We've hit several Pro Shops and we haven't been able to wear or display any of the stuff that we've gotten because we don't want to spoil the reveal of like what ends up in our bag. So
there's something right over there that is like one of my favorite things I own in life. I'm looking at another thing that is one of my favorite things I own. Like my top earthly possessions, I have to fucking hide from the world.
So keep an eye out for that. The Pro Shop War series will hit Instagram, TikTok, Twitter today. So this afternoon, I think we'll put it out today. So check us out. Hit us up.
Subscribe everywhere.
Spike that Spotify rating. Hit us up on Apple Podcasts. Send us to the top of the charts. Comment the funny stuff, boys. Whatever you want to do. But thanks for listening. It's another episode of What Chaos.
Love you. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.